Thank you very much, and thank you to the Baltic Forum and to Dr. Jürgens, to Dr. Urbanowicz for the kind invitation. This is the first time I come to this Baltic Forum, but on the other hand, the issues that we're discussing today are all well known to you. But I would like in particular just to say a few words on Dr. Brzezinski. I was a long-standing European director of the Trilateral Commission, and I felt very sad to learn, of course, of his demise yesterday, I think. But I found it also extremely important in that case and more appropriate to give you a few thoughts that came out of our last plenary meeting of the Trilateral Commission, which was held in Washington at the end of March. This meeting actually focused also on our relationship with Russia. And thanks to Dr. Jürgens and also thanks to Paula Dobriansky, a member of the board of the council, we discussed an update of the 2014 report and came up with some interesting conclusions. First of all, on US and Russia relations, we all know how difficult the situation is. But here our authors were actually quite positive in the sense we had to find ways and avenues in linking up and continuing the dialogue. As mentioned before, this dialogue is increasingly difficult at official level, all the more so should this dialogue be held in a more private and confidence-related arena, such as the Baltic Forum. We also had a very strong discussion on Ukraine. And there, at the Trilateral Commission, the members felt that the Minsk agreements are not being properly implemented from both sides, and this includes also from the Ukrainian side as well as from the Russian side. But the idea that came out there was basically that maybe the format, the Normandy format, should be maybe broadened. That could be an interesting topic, for example, for Baltic Forum discussions, such as including the United States as an example. The meeting then continued on Syria and the Middle East. At the Trilateral Commission on Syria and the Middle East, we had some very interesting comments coming out from our friends from the area that we have to find a way to create some kind of a CSC process in the Mediterranean, work a little bit on the Helsinki approach that had worked so well in the old days of the Cold War, which has since broken down, unfortunately, in Europe itself. But anyway, the concept should be relived, and one of our members, Prince Hassan of Jordan, has been increasingly working on this idea and will be coming up shortly with a few recommendations which he will give to the Commission, to the Trilateral Commission. Of course, all areas of cooperations in soft power, for example, would seem of great importance. Terrorism obviously comes up, pandemics you mentioned also, but there again, the level of trust needs to be rebuilt. What came out of our discussions was basically that as long as trust is not there, soft power issues will be difficult to address. So everything has to be decided and discussed in a holistic approach. And this holistic approach is one area where, for example, the Baltic Forum would be extremely helpful in furthering these soft power issues or soft case issues, which of course continue to, unfortunately, to be at the top of our agendas. NATO, energy, and all the other aspects were likewise discussed, which you have broadened and discussed and reviewed today, as well as Russia's presence in Asia-Pacific. Please don't forget that the Trilateral Commission was created in 1973 at the instigation of our founder, actually, Zbigniew Brzezinski, as well as David Rockefeller, who also left us, unfortunately, a few months ago, with the idea of integrating Japan into the Euro-Atlantic world. And this integration led to discussions such as launching the G5. So yesterday's G7 meeting in Sicily is a little bit the result of the thinking process that Dr. Brzezinski had launched as early as in the beginning of the 70s. So The idea of dialogue, the idea of official dialogue, but especially of second-track dialogue, should be maintained and reinforced, especially in these days. And finally, what Dr. Arbatov just mentioned, that probably there was greater and more significant dialogue at the height of Cold War years, is less the case today. We have the impression of monologues being held without any strong lines of communications, which were always present at the height of the Cold War. These strong lines of communications being difficult to set up at the official level, all the more so a forum such as yours would be a helpful tool. I would like to conclude just quickly. As a Frenchman, we have, as you know, a new president, François Hollande has left us, and now we have our President Macron. I think this will infuse a lot of new energies into the French diplomacy. I think the country is now changing. The atmosphere, you can already feel it's very palpable in France. And his first meetings on the world stage, whether it was at the meeting in Brussels, at the NATO, or now in Taormina, and he's meeting, as you all know, tomorrow, President Putin in Versailles, all this makes it to be positive that a new era is in the opening, and this will be also extremely helpful to launching again the Franco-German motor within the European Union. So let's finish off on a positive note, and I'm sure we would all go along that way. Thank you very much.